The 2026 Winter Olympic Games will be remembered for a major scandal. The International Olympic Committee has ultimately sided with the Russians and today disqualified the Ukrainian athlete for a completely fabricated reason. Ukrainian skeleton athlete Vladislav Heraskevych was unable to start his performance at the 2026 Olympic Games. The athlete was disqualified just a few minutes before the first run, which was a very telling move. And the reason was that Heraskevych planned to start in what is called a memorial helmet, with images of Ukrainian athletes who died as a result of the bloody Russian aggression. But the pro-Russian officials of the Olympic Committee decided that this was a violation. But a day earlier, the stewards at the stadium did nothing to stop the supporters of the Russian athlete from displaying the symbols of the terrorist country, that is, the Russian flag. Although, let me remind you, this was officially prohibited by the International Olympic Committee. Besides the flag itself, the female fans painted their faces in the colors of the Russian tricolor, and the stewards at the stadium saw this too, but nobody cared. Let me repeat once again, even though this is officially prohibited by the Olympic Committee, and it's important to note here that Heraskevych is also the flag bearer of the Ukrainian Olympic team. But it's worth noting that world politicians, celebrities, officials, and the media sided with the Ukrainian skeleton athlete, calling the behavior of the Olympic Committee, quote, Olympic hypocrisy. My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave any comment under this episode, and don't forget to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So, the Ukrainian skeleton athlete Vladislav Heraskevych was not able to start his performance at the 2026 Winter Olympic Games today. The athlete was disqualified right before the first run. The thing is, Heraskevych planned to start in what is called a memorial helmet, featuring images of 20 Ukrainian athletes who died as a result of Russian aggression. The International Olympic Committee stated that Vladislav's helmet somehow violates their rules, and that it's all about politics. Remember, this is not the only war in the world. The day before, the International Olympic Committee officially banned the Ukrainian athlete from using this helmet during training and competitions, citing rules of neutrality and a ban on any political or memorial displays in the sports arena. If the athlete ignored the ban, he faced disqualification, which is exactly what happened. And here I will quote the official statement of the International Olympic Committee, quote, Skeleton pilot Vladislav Heraskevych from Ukraine will not be able to start his race at the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. This decision was made after his refusal to comply with the International Olympic Committee's rules on athlete self-expression. It was made by the jury of the International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation based on the fact that the helmet he intended to wear did not comply with the rules. Therefore, the International Olympic Committee has regretfully decided to revoke his accreditation for the 2026 Games. Despite numerous exchanges of views and personal meetings between the International Olympic Committee and Mr. Heraskevych, the last of which took place this morning with International Olympic Committee President Kirsty Coventry, he did not consider any form of compromise. The International Olympic Committee very much wanted Mr. Heraskevych to participate in the competitions, which is why the International Olympic Committee met with him to find the most respectful solution. He was very glad that he got this position. He was very happy that he got this position. Do you see the athlete's father? Vladislav Heraskevych himself has not commented yet, but it is already known that the National Olympic Committee of Ukraine plans to go to court to challenge such a disgraceful decision. And by the way, it's worth adding some information about the person who currently heads the hypocritical International Olympic Committee and sets the rules and values of the Olympic movement. So that it becomes clear why I call her pro-Russian. Kirsty Coventry is an Olympic Games participant and the most decorated athlete in the history of Zimbabwe. But after finishing her sports career, she served as Zimbabwe's Minister of Sports for 7 years. She was appointed by President Emerson Mnangagwa as the the head of a regime that is under United States and United Kingdom sanctions for human rights violations. Coventry, who has now decided that our Heraskevych should be disqualified from the Olympic Games, has repeatedly faced criticism for her ties to the authorities, and not just any authorities, but a dictatorial regime. For example, in 2009 she accepted a cash award from Robert Mugabe. She refused to resign after the shooting of protesters in her own country in 2019. She received land confiscated from Zimbabwean farmers during her premiership. Zimbabwe was suspended from Fédération Internationale de Football Association for government interference in sports. Therefore, it's very strange for her to say that sports are outside of politics. Well, after being elected president of the International Olympic Committee, that same Coventry is already signaling that, listen, the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, it wouldn't hurt to let them hang up their tricolor rags, let them compete not under the white neutral flag, but under the Russian tricolor. That's what you need to know about that same Kirsty Coventry, who today was saying, well, listen, Heraskevych broke the rules of the Olympic Committee. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has already responded to the ban on skeleton racer Heraskevych from competing at the Winter Olympics. And next, I'll quote the president of Ukraine. On his helmet are portraits of our athletes who were killed by Russia. Figure skater Dmytro Sharpar, who died in battles near Bakhmut. 19-year-old biathlete Yevhen Malishev, killed by the occupiers near Kharkiv, and other athletes of ours whose lives were taken by the Russian war. I thank the flag bearer of our team at the Winter Olympics, Vladislav Heraskevych, for reminding the whole world of the price of our struggle. This truly cannot be considered inconvenient, inappropriate, or called a political act at sporting events. This is a reminder to the whole world of what modern Russia is, and it is exactly this that reminds everyone of the global role of sports and the historical mission of the Olympic movement as such. All of this is about peace and life. Ukraine remains true to this, while Russia proves the opposite. But, as it turns out, this scandal will definitely have further developments. It has come to light that this pro-Russian leadership of the International Olympic Committee put pressure on Ukrainian athletes, telling them directly like, listen, your war, this war of Russia against Ukraine. This is just one of 130 wars around the world. So, there's no need to make such a big deal out of it and put it on display. Like, why are you making such a fuss about your war? There are so many wars around the world, and here you are trying to show that someone attacked you. Can you imagine that? Representatives of the International Olympic Committee are doing this right in front of Ukrainian athletes. And so, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Andriy Sybiha, also commented on the disqualification of Vladislav Heraskevych. He emphasized that the International Olympic Committee did not ban the Ukrainian athlete, but rather its own reputation. And future generations will remember this as a moment of shame and disgrace for this Olympic Committee. And furthermore, the committee is doing this to our athletes, end quote from Sybiha. Heraskevych just wanted to honor the memory of fellow athletes who died in the war. There is nothing wrong with that, by any rules or ethics. The International Olympic Committee intimidated, despised, and also lectured Ukrainians about how they should remain silent about one of the 130 conflicts in the world. In addition, the committee systematically did not oppose the biggest violator of international sports and the Olympic Charter, namely Russia. Moscow launched 3 invasions during the Olympic truce. Over the past 3 decades, Moscow has implemented the largest state-sponsored doping program, killed 650 Ukrainian athletes and coaches, and damaged 800 sports facilities in Ukraine. It is the Russians who should be banned, not the honoring of their victims. Not a single one of them is neutral. If the Olympic creed says that the most important thing at the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part, then the International Olympic Committee has completely betrayed it by not allowing Heraskevych to simply take part, and has betrayed the 650 Ukrainian athletes and coaches killed by Russia. But the International Olympic Committee went even further in their hypocrisy. The thing is, just a day earlier, the Russian rag was calmly waving at the Olympics. Sorry, I mean the flag, which is actually banned by the same committee. The day before, the International Olympic Committee held figure skating competitions, in which 3 athletes from Russia and Belarus participated. They can only compete under a neutral flag because of the decision of the International Olympic Committee. Officially, the symbols of Russia and Belarus are banned at the Winter Olympics, but Russian fans brought their flag to the stands to support their athlete Pyotr Gumenek. I really don't understand what representatives of this wild nation are doing at a civilized Olympics. Let me remind you, remember there used to be a legend that during the Olympics all wars would stop. Well, Russia has long since spit on that rule. Well, it continues its aggression against Ukraine, kills athletes, and at the Olympics they say something like, well, the Ukrainian athlete went too far, of course, but let me get back to this Russian training. It would seem that when the Russian mishap appeared at one of the Olympic stadiums, the International Olympic Committee should have reacted somehow, but no. The stewards at the stadium didn't stop the fan from displaying the symbols of the terrorist country at all, despite the ban from the International Olympic Committee. In addition to the flag itself, the fans also painted their faces in the colors. Here are these 3 colors, and the stewards saw all of this and decided that yes, this is not a violation. Well, the Russian flag is banned at the Olympics, but let it fly in the stands. Well, fortunately, this Russian, by the way, took 12th place in the short program. And now, the world media have taken the side of the Ukrainian athlete Heraskevych. For example, I picked out a comment from the Telegraph sports correspondent Simon Briggs, who is outraged by Olympic hypocrisy. According to him, the phrase, "don't mix sports with politics" is empty. No, it doesn't work, but today it has come to the forefront again. He emphasized that the International Olympic Committee's position is not only philosophically untenable but also absolutely wrong, and also advised the International Olympic Committee to actually understand who they are dealing with. Next, I'll just quote the journalist Simon Briggs. The irony is that the International Olympic Committee actually did the right thing 4 years ago when they banned Russians and Belarusians. They showed more backbone than a number of other governing bodies. In particular, the World Tennis Tours, which cowardly voted to punish Wimbledon for its stance against Putin, and yet by excluding Heraskevych, they now look like the villains. Ukrainian athletes never back down, and let me remind you, they are dead serious. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Also, if you found this episode interesting and useful, you can support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation or by subscribing as a paid or sponsor member. You can do this through the links and details in the description of this video. There are a variety of platforms there, and I'm sure you'll be able to choose the one that suits you best. I would be grateful for any support from you. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.